Okay, these...
And the phone, could they mute their phone too, please?
Well, I hope so. We've asked them to.
Oh, someone just joined us, if they can mute as well. *6, your phone if you're not already muted.
There's the lost person. Hang on 1 more second.
It's 1700.
1900. Where's 1900?
It's
So where are you now? Bye-bye. Okay.
You don't want to get the mountain?
No, that's fine. Part of my background.
All right, great.
It's not part of Paul's.
Got it. Almost. Perfect.
Anyway, I was saying that we do record these classes now that we're doing so, and I will make them into MP3s, and they will be available for you to download on the website. So if you want to go back over stuff, or if you missed a class and want to tune in on Monday or something, I'll usually get them up Monday morning, so you can always go there and download the MP3s off the website. And I think you probably all found the website, but the website is Leelaa.org. Leelaa with 2 E's and 2 A's. And, hi, Lisa. And there's going to be a page up there that's just for us. The address is eff.php. I'll send this out in an email tomorrow to everybody that's here. And on that page, there's the telephone instructions and the schedule, and that's where you'll find all the MP3s and everything. So we go there for all of our stuff. And I think that's about it. If anything else comes up, we'll say so. We start every session with 10 minutes of meditation in order to get focused and get centered and let God get present, let Spirit get present, because the only work that's going to get done in this workshop is with the presence of Spirit. So we'll do that. We'll do a 10-minute meditation now, and then we'll jump in. you. So many people here that I'm so happy to see again. We have people that have done this work before and those who haven't. We have probably quite a lot of people on the conference call. Let me see.
There are 7 callers on the call.
Good. We got Anya, are you with us? I guess Anya's going to be joining us from Mill Valley, and Bridget and Sybil and Marinette.
I'm here.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi. I'm glad you're here. That's right. I need to give you people enough time to do your star 6. In Bellingham, we have Bridget that a lot of you have met, and Marinette and Sybil. And we have Mark and Patty. Some of you remember Mark and Patty from years ago. They're in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. Where are you guys?
City of Brotherly Love.
City of Brotherly Love. And Monica and Eileen, where are you guys? In Tucson?
Tempe, Arizona.
Tempe. I never remember who's in which university is where. And Dulcie and maybe Kay are in Sedona.
Dulcie's in Sedona, Kay's in Prescott.
Kay's in Prescott, okay. And many of you know most of those people, so anybody else that's out there that I left out? Who else is lurking out there? Are you with us, Debbie? Not yet, okay. So, this class, workshop, is called Eliminating Fear and Fantasy, and it's also going to be eliminating concepts. We did a workshop here for, 13 years, 12 years, called Script and Kid Workshop. It started with Barbara Mull back in San Fernando Valley in 1980s. Dulcie, who's in Sedona, taught the first workshop here in, I think, 1997. And some of you were here. And we did 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of those workshops every year. We did a kid or a script or both together or different varieties for until 3 years ago. Every year we did typically 3 a year or 4 a year. And had quite a good experience with it, a lot of us. Then 3 years ago I just got the message to stop. That it was time to stop doing this work. We'd gotten to where we were going to get with that work, and it was just time to stop, and that I needed to go off and do my own work and grow a bit more spiritually and grow in understanding. The Script and Kid Work went through 9 editions of the book, and it went from a 30-page book to 170 pages, and we learned a great deal about that work, and wrote everything down. And when that last edition of the book came out, I knew that was done, that it's all there, that we were at that level that we could do. And so I really got told to shut it down for a while and do my own work, and I've been doing that now for a couple of years. And Paul Gorman came to town, and I spent quite a bit of time with him, and my own understanding deepened quite a bit, and some interesting new viewpoints of the Script and Kid Work came up, and a whole new deepening of understanding of that came up. And then 3 months ago it became clear that it was time to do this again, because it's time to finish the kid work, which seems to go on and on and on and on. We all get to where we manage our scripts pretty well, but the kid work goes on and on and on and on, and it's time to finish that. And I think we understand now why it hasn't been getting finished. So that's the big change in this work. So you all have, or most of you have, the Script and Kid Handbook, the 9th edition, and there's a lot of really good information in there. It's really a complete piece of work on that level of work. And I suggest that you, as we go along, we'll refer to various pages of it, but feel free to look at it all, and but don't pay much attention to the kid work, because we're going to do that different this time. We're going to take a whole new approach, so don't do much in the kid work, but the script work and everything, all the stuff leading up to it is going to hold still pretty much. I guess I'm supposed to emphasize that this work is, we've always said that this is spiritual work, it's not psychology work, this is not a psychological workshop or anything like that at all. This is spiritual work, and what we call script and what we call kid is a sign of places in which we don't have sufficient spiritual understanding. So this workshop this time is going to focus very strongly on spiritual work and very strongly on developing a spiritual practice, each of us individually. And it's just absolutely not possible for me to stress enough how important it is that each of us develop a regular spiritual practice. Without a spiritual practice, nothing is going to happen except a little bit of intellectual understanding, and that's been going on for 4,000 years, and it doesn't solve the problem. We have to get to a point where we are experiencing, not hearing about, experiencing a different level of consciousness. The level of consciousness that we have when we come into this work is the level of consciousness which is causing the problems that we call script and kid and causing us to be in this demise. And the solution to that is the raising of consciousness. The solution to that is transcending that level of consciousness. So we're going to focus very much on growing spiritually. And I would say there was a bunch of people that I was really hoping would be here, and you're all here, and I just feel so blessed by the people who showed up here and everything. I have absolutely nothing better to do between now and Christmas than help each of you individually or collectively develop a spiritual program that works for you. I am on call, I am available. Use me, and let's make this work. It's the most important thing we're going to do between now and Christmas. All the people, all the ladies that I've sponsored over the years have heard 100 times. I've pointed out to them that, what decision you make concerning your next job or your career, what decision you make concerning which house you buy or apartment you move into, what decision you make returning to who you marry or divorce or move in with or move out from, what decision you make with respect to anything at all out there in the material world is going to have absolutely no effect on how you feel about yourself 5 years from now. Getting the right house will have no effect on how you feel 5 years from now. If you want a bigger house and you get it, then you'll want a bigger house. Dumping him will not help because you'll want him. Getting him will not help, but then you'll want to dump him. It goes on and on. No decision, none of these major decisions, whichever side of it you choose, will have any effect on how you feel about yourself in 5 years. But if you spend 5 or 10 minutes a day meditating, it's going to have a huge effect on how you feel about yourself in 5 years. And we're going to ask that we do a lot more than that. We're going to develop some tools. But the only thing that will affect how you feel about yourself 5 years from today is how much spiritual work you do, and it's directly proportional. The more work you do, the better you're going to feel. The more light and joy and love there is in your life, there will be. So that's the focus of the new work. It was the focus of the old work, but it was sort of set aside, and we were all dealing with our material stuff, and now it's the focus of the new work, and that's what it's about. So please hear me again. I've got nothing better to do for the next 3 months than work with you individually or collectively and answer questions and make suggestions and walk through all of this stuff. So hopefully everybody has read the introduction to the Script and Kid Handbook, this front page. There's a few things that I want to go over and emphasize. There are 4 spiritual axioms that are in there, and I was happy to see when I went back over and reread all this that those are exactly the right axioms. The first axiom says that God is consciousness. And we'll do a mini class as this progresses on what that means, what consciousness means. But the important thing to get right now, or to hear right now, let me say one more thing. I'm going to be stating axioms and stating spiritual truths. Hear the capital letters, see the quotes. And I don't expect anybody to believe anything I say. What I would like you to do is hear what I say and understand what I say. You know, ask questions. This is a workshop. Ask questions until you understand what it is I'm saying. And when you understand it, that's fine. Then go on with your life and discover whether or not in your experience that's true. And you will discover as your experience progresses that these things are true. But don't take my word for it. Belief is a poor child. None of that stuff works. Faith is useless. Belief is useless. We've misapplied faith and belief for 4,000 years. We don't have any belief and we don't have any faith. What we have is experience, understanding and experience. Okay, so the first axiom is God is consciousness. And consciousness is the heavy word there. What it means is that God is spirit. We always talk about being spiritual rather than material and stuff like that. What that means is that God is spirit. What it means is that God is spiritual. What that means is that God is not material. That God is not anything. It's not a bearded dude on a cloud. It's not a man. It's not a woman. It's not an it. God is pure spirit. And it turns out, and we will come to understand it, that spirit and consciousness are really synonymous, that these are the same word, that consciousness is spirit. I guess while we're there, let me point out one of my favorite sayings, which I've discovered to be true. And you've all heard it before, that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Okay, that's a true statement. Spiritual being means non-material. It means spirit. It means consciousness. We can use the word mind for a while, although we'll back out of that very quickly. But we are spiritual beings, and the thing to get is that means that we're not material beings. But we're spiritual beings who are having a human experience right now, a material experience. Okay? And I don't expect you to accept that, but hear it. That's what's really going on, is that all of us are spiritual beings and we're having a human experience, a material experience right now, because that's the level our consciousness is at. Okay, now the second axiom says essentially that consciousness is experience. And you can get a sense of that when you realize that if I'm not conscious of something, I can't possibly experience it. And if I'm experiencing something, clearly I'm conscious of it, okay? So it's really clear that everything I experience is in my consciousness, and everything that's in my consciousness is in my experience. The thing we don't get is the absolute depth of that statement. It's a pretty easy to see that I can't be conscious of something unless I'm experiencing it, and I can't experience something I'm not conscious of. But the depth of that is far deeper than I can comprehend yet. It's where we're all working. But what we experience is a reflection of our consciousness. And it says this in the book, and it gave us some examples in there, but the point is that what my consciousness contains is my experience. Right now, look around you, everybody look around. What your consciousness contains, i.e. what you're conscious of, is what you're experiencing through your eyes and your ears and whatever. You know, your experience right now is what you're conscious of. And it's always true that what I experience is my consciousness. Now the part that we don't get is we've all been really trained to believe that seeing is believing. That what's out there is impacting me and causing my experience. That there's something out there and it's being perceived through my senses and causing my experience. And what we're going to discover through this workshop is that it's the other way around, that what's the content of my consciousness is what I'm experiencing, is the cause of what I'm experiencing. What I believe, what I fear, what I fantasize about, what I love, everything that is contained in my consciousness is determining my experience, and the more deeply and more strongly held it is in my consciousness, the more deeply and strongly it results in my experience. And the reason that's so important is, if you read the stuff in the introduction about the script, it's my fear. Well, my fears are the things that have the most dominance in my consciousness. The things that determine most of my experience is the things I believe most strongly, and the things I believe most strongly are the things that I'm afraid of, and specifically those things that I'm deathly afraid of. Okay? These are the things that determine my life. These are the things that are in my consciousness, and they're running my consciousness, and these are the things that are causing my experience. And it's not like, well, don't think in terms of right now cause and effect. It's that in general what I believe and hold in my consciousness, it's not down to details. You know, what I'm thinking right now doesn't cause this, and if I change my mind, the picture's going to change. But what I really hold to be true completely determines what my experience is. I can give you an example. If somebody walked in the door right now and started shouting obscenities at us, some of us would laugh and think, that's really weird. Where's that dude coming from? And some of us would be affronted by it and think that the guy ought to be captured and jailed. And some of us would be scared, threatened by it, and think we're going to be attacked or something. And others of us would have other experiences, and some of us would get righteous about it, and some of us would think we were being disrespected. Others would just laugh and think it was really silly. And others wouldn't pay much attention to it at all, okay? Now here's a case where all of us are having very different experiences of exactly the same thing out there, okay? And we go home at night and somebody will talk about this insane man came in and threatened me, and others will come in and talk about this funny guy came in and gave us a good laugh, and we'll all be describing the same situation, but our experience will have been totally different because of how it affected us, or more precisely, because of what we believed about that experience. So it really is that my beliefs, my concepts, my understanding is determining my experience. And again, we'll leave it there for now. That's a starting place. And if you understand what I'm saying, don't believe it, understand it, that's as far as we need to go right now. And it's a workshop, by the way. At any point, jump in and ask questions or whatever. Okay, the third axiom says that the only God there is in individual human experience is the amount of God that individual is aware of. And that's really just a corollary of the second axiom. What it says is, and it's clearly true, if I don't have any God in my consciousness, I can't be experiencing God. My experience is the outpicturing of the content of my consciousness, and if there is no God in my consciousness, there is no God in my experience. Okay? If my experience is totally the human experience, then there's no God in my experience. I'm having a human experience. If through meditation and through spiritual practices I begin to bring God into my life, and I begin to experience God, and then the immediate result of my increasing my conscious contact with God is that there is more sense of presence in my life, there's more sense of love in my life, there's more joy in my life, there's more delight in my life. All these things start happening in my life because now my consciousness includes the presence of God. And if the presence of God is in my consciousness, the presence of God must be in my experience. And that's what God looks like in experience. It looks like love and joy and delight and things like that. So, that's the reason that we need to work on our spiritual growth. If we want to solve this slips and kid problem, the reason is that we need to get some God in our experience, in our consciousness, so that God is in our experience. AA is so wise, I mean, improving our conscious contact with God is what makes it, what improves our experience. That's what makes the change. So we will be working on that. If you're totally immersed in the human experience, then there is no God in your consciousness. If I'm totally immersed in the human experience, then there is no God in my consciousness, and there is no God in my experience. And my experience is a totally human experience. There is no God in it, and it becomes the hit and miss experience that humans have. And I guess that's Buddha's the first of Buddha's Four Noble Truths. The paraphrase is life sucks, but his first truth is essentially about understanding the human experience and understanding the fact that the human experience is continually changing and topsy-turvy, and good things become bad and bad things become good, and well people become sick and sick become well, and money shows up and money disappears, and 3/4 of humanity is starving or sick or contracting diseases or in misery or in war, or look at the world around you and see what total immersion in human experience results, and see what consciousness looks like if there's no God in it. Okay? Now those of us who are playing at this level already have a lot of God in our experience, a lot of consciousness. Those of us who are at this class and doing this kind of work, who've gotten through 12-step work and arrived at a higher level of consciousness, have some God in our experience, and the result is that our lives change. Just appear to change. The people that hang out with us are different, and things get better, and opportunities develop, and more money shows up, and better job opportunities show up, and things like that happen as a direct result of our consciousness rising Joel Goldsmith, the founder of the Infinite Way, and Barbara Moll's teacher, and she was the one that originated this work. Joel's first understanding, the revelation that started his whole work, was when he was told, point blank, by Spirit itself, that there is no God in human experience. Because his work was, how can all this be happening with, how can all this sickness and disease and all this stuff be going on in a world in which there's a God? And the answer is there isn't a God in that world. And if you honestly check, you'll see that there's a lot of talk about God, and there's a lot of people praying to God, and sometimes there appear to be results, but the fact is that we've been praying for peace for 10,000 years, and we don't have peace. We've been praying for health for 10,000 years, and we don't have health. We've been praying for renewable poverty for 10,000 years, and there's no successes. What we're seeing is human consciousness. And our experience is the outpicturing of human consciousness, because they got us outnumbered 7 billion to 32. So that's the third corollary, that there is no God in human experience, and there is no God in your experience except to the extent that you introduce God to your experience through a spiritual practice. And the fourth one is just a little quickie. It says that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and this is one of Newton's laws of physics, but it's also very true spiritually. If I push against something, if I go up and push against that wall, I can push very hard against that wall, and the reason it doesn't fall down is that it will push back against me just that hard. And if I really push one of you, trying to get you to do something, the harder I push, the more you're going to resist. And just in general, anything I push against, try to coerce, try to force, try to make happen, is going to resist me at that level. So just be aware of that pushing is not the way to cause things to happen. Making things happen is not the way to cause things to happen. The way to cause things to happen that you want to happen is to get more God in your life and watch them happen. So the other points there, which is important for when we talk about kid, is that not only is pushing resisted, but anything I'm working with or working on, I'm sustaining. Now this is that push gets pushed back. It's also that what's in my consciousness is in my experience. So if I'm really working on improving something, I'm making sure it stays here. Okay? If I'm really, in every area of our life, specifically with respect to kid work, if I'm really working on my kid, I'm sustaining my kid. If I'm really trying to get rid of my kid, I'm sustaining my kid tougher and tougher, Anything that I'm really working on, either positively or negatively, I'm sustaining. If I'm really working on love, on becoming more loving, I'm working on becoming more loving. I am holding in my consciousness the belief that I'm not loving, and I'm sustaining that. I'm sustaining not being loving. If I really believe that there's not enough money in my life, I am in that belief experiencing not enough money in my life, and by working on the problem of there not being enough money in my life, I am sustaining the fact that there's not enough money in my life. And in any other area. So, working on it sustains it. Believing it causes it. The work all has to be done spiritually. What are we doing? In most sessions, we're going to spend the first hour sharing about our experience with the preceding week, and then maybe part of the second hour, and then maybe we'll do a little bit of teaching type work or something in the front of the second hour, and then we'll introduce the material that we're going to work on for the week. This week is a little different because I really want to get things kicked off on the spiritual foundation that this work has to be based on. So it's mostly me hitting a list of topics. I was given during my meditations in the morning. I meditate every morning. I was just given a stack of paper that thick. You know, it felt like what I was hearing is don't forget to tell them, don't forget, you know, and I had so much stuff that I finally had to just put it all aside and realize that no, I had to stop doing that and let flow what happened. So I've got topics here, but not specifics. Let's talk about there's an appendix in the stuff we read that talks about the 3 ways to develop spirituality. And let's just cover those and then we'll take our first break. The first way of growing your spirituality is meditation. And you really want to commit right now, if you don't have a regular meditation practice, you really want to commit right now to setting aside a block of time every day, preferably at the same time, and meditate. Maybe 5 minutes would be a fine amount of time to meditate. I suggest you do it at the same time every day and that you do it in the same place every day, because very quickly your body-mind will get in the habit of going to that place at that time in the day to meditate, and you will be drawn into a meditative state of mind just by the repetitiveness of doing it. So I would suggest that you pick a time in the morning, for instance, before you start your day. It's also better to meditate in the morning because then you get the benefit of it all day rather than doing it in the evening so that you get the benefit of it while you sleep. So I would suggest that you start a practice in the morning and in the same place and at the same time. A really good idea is to get a copy of the Insight Timer, which is an app for your iPhone or your iPad, which costs like $4, which has a timer on it, and set the timer for 3 minutes or 5 minutes or however long, and start it so that you don't have to keep your eye on the clock or worry about how long am I here. And it's also a good idea, if you have some sort of a book that's spiritual, to read something a little bit spiritual, maybe a minute or two's worth, or until you hear something that's worth thinking about. Read that beforehand. It might tend to lead you into this meditative state of mind. A good form of meditation is to read something and hear a spiritual truth that catches your attention, and then start the clock and think about that spiritual truth. Meditate on it, contemplate it a little bit, think about what it might mean, play it over with your mind, mull it over, ponder it, and let your mind slowly draw into a little bit of quiet. And then when the thing belongs in 5 minutes, or 10 or whatever, get up and go about it. And go about whatever you're doing. But that's a really good practice, and you yourself will find after a while that 5 minutes isn't enough, and you'll extend it to 10 minutes and more, and you'll want to add another one in the evening before you go to sleep, and you'll be increasing your own meditative practice just because of the benefits that come from it. The second thing that will help your spiritual growth is to hear spiritual truth. Joel Goldsmith called it learning the letter of truth, and truth books or tapes or CDs are all good. I guess there's some good truth on YouTube now, but hearing truth and paying attention. So again, I suggest that you listen to a little truth before you start your 5 minutes or 10 minutes or however long you're going to do it in meditation. Listen to some truth for a while. It's important that the truth you're listening to is being taught by the original master. You don't want to hear somebody's book on what Eckhart Tolle said, because you're not going to hear what Eckhart Tolle said, you're going to hear what that person thought he said. Buddha had, I'm going to make up a number here, but it's not that far adrift, 16 disciples. And when Buddha died, the next day there were 16 sects of Buddhism, because there were 16 different guys, all of whom had heard the same talk, and all of whom thought they had it, and all of whom had heard it differently, and had heard it to their own depth, and none of those sects was what Buddha said. There was a various variety of Buddhist sects, some of which have survived. So go to the master. Go to an authority that you believe and trust, that you know is the master. The original, or if you're reading something that's being translated, make sure that the translator is also a master. Because a person who's not a Zen master can't possibly translate Zen. A Zen master's works out of Japanese and English. They can translate the words, but they can't get the meaning. But anyway, learning the letter of truth is a good way to do it. There's a bunch of books in the library, and there's a bunch of tapes, there's a bunch of CDs, and there's a bunch of books in the library there. They're all available to all of you. Ask me about how we go about that, but you can borrow them. And they're all by masters, and you're welcome to those. The third way is, the third important thing is community. It's a real advantage, since if or when you get the fact that the content of your consciousness is determining your experience, you will also discover that there's really only one consciousness, and that right now we're sitting in a pool of consciousness, and the consciousness you're experiencing right now is like the community consciousness. And those of you in 12-step programs certainly know about the group consciousness in AA meetings or OA meetings or various 12-step meetings. There's a consciousness in the meeting, and you get affected by that consciousness, lifted by it or drugged down by it. You all will think about it if you walk into a room in which there are a bunch of depressed people sitting around who are all perfectly silent, and you walk in there and sit down, you'll be depressed pretty soon. And if you walk into a room full of angry people who are all being quiet, you sit in there and you sit down and close your eye, you'll feel some anger coming up. And if you walk into a room full of joyful people, you'll start feeling uplifted. And if you hang out into a community of like-minded people who are doing this work, you'll be lifted by being in the community. And so this community is that tool for you, and it's a very good thing to hang out with these people. Those of you who are on the telephone, you're part of the community. Community doesn't really include distance. It's who's working with you and who you're talking to and who you're sitting with and who is in your consciousness and who you're sharing with that determines your experience. And this is a phone and email list, which I will leave here or put over there on the table. Please check it to make sure it's correct with respect to yours. Cross it out if you don't want people to call you, but check it, make sure it's right. Use the phone list. Call people when you're having questions about the work, or you're feeling pulled down, or you're just having a low day for no reason at all. You just don't feel you want to be lifted. Anybody in this room can lift you. Nobody is here who is not capable of lifting somebody else. I have absolutely no trouble lifting you out of your problems. It's not so easy to lift me out of my problems, but you would have no trouble doing that. You'd probably just say a truth or two, and I'd feel better. So community is the third. There's the truth, and there's the community, and there's the consciousness itself, and those are the things we need to work on to develop this. There's one thing that went through, and I don't know what it was. Things come through my mind, and sometimes I don't catch them quick enough. But if they want to come back, they will. Okay, so again, check the email list, make sure that it's correct, and use it for any excuses. This is really an important part to develop. Oh, I remember. Well, yeah, another reason that we decided that we wanted to start doing this class again is that we wanted to. A lot of people who've been around here a long time miss the community and want to have the community back, and everybody says, I got nobody to talk to, and I can't talk about this at the AA meeting, and I can't talk about this here and there, and who do I talk to, and such like, and the fact is, if you want to talk about this work, you probably want to talk about it to somebody who's doing this work. There's another appendix in the book that talks about secrecy, and if in fact you go telling spiritual truth to somebody who is not yet uplifted enough to hear it, they will usually find it necessary to belittle it and talk down to you. Oh, that's nonsense, or whatever it is they need to do, because that's usually the reaction to truths that one's not ready to hear. So if you take this out there, you're asking to have yourself talked out of it and have it talked down and have it belittled, whereas if you keep it in this society, in this sangha is the word for it, in this community, if you keep you're talking about this work pretty much in this community or others who have done this work, then you will find that it is fulfilled and expanded and flourishes. So let's take a 10-minute break now, and then we'll come back and see what else we need to talk about.